So, first things first, if you're curious what that was just on the screen a second ago, then I actually envy you for not having to know what that is. Okay? If you do know what it is, hey, it is what it is. I've been right there with you, you know. So, for a brief explanation, that was synthetic urine, also known as Quickfix. I don't really know a whole lot of other brands, but I know that brand for sure. Like, straight up, like Google. Like, that's like the brand. Okay. And it's just something that over time people have found that it was very good at giving results to passing a drug test versus all the other ways that people try. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out. And real quick, if you're here, thank you for coming to my channel. I hope you like my stories. This is going to be a good one. So saddle up and let's get it. This is conning my way through HR to get a job at a legitimate spot with a failed drug test that came from synthetic urine. And I know that's like a mouthful, but, just to clarify it real quick, it's just, I took the drug test, took it with the synthetic urine, like I always have, and things didn't turn out the way that I thought they would. So, and I say conning in a very I'm not disrespectful, but I'm not trying to call myself a con man or anything, but it's just literally con is short for confidence. And for me to even like attempt this, I had to have been confident because like I don't think I could do this now. I mean, I probably could, but just I wouldn't want to. I would be in my head. Like I don't know why I was just so nonchalant of just like, oh yeah, but that's how I was. But by all means, I'm not calling myself a con man. No disrespect to people who identify as con men or women or whatever. But I just I'm not trying to make that point, but I'm just saying the confidence. I'm one unconfident ass motherfucker these days. So I don't know what happened to it, but shit, where's it at? Let me get some. So, anyways, this took place right when I got back from Yellowstone. If you didn't know, I have a series. It's like 7 or 8 parts of my time going up to Yellowstone and, hijinks that played out there and ended up getting kicked off the mountain and banished basically. Like if we weren't gone by a certain time, it was going to be a trespassing charge. So that was right when we came, like that had happened, came back to California, and then this was like literally like weeks after that. Very, very short amount of time. So we get back to California, and of course, like we're like trying to get a job or trying to work. So we have a mutual acquaintance that we had both worked with in the past that it was kind of his thing to get like hired by different places that are like maybe not doing as well as they could, or they're overseeing something, or he's just kind of like almost on some like John Taffer like bar rescue type shit. Like I feel like he's someone they call in to just kind of take account of stuff and see what's being spent, what's being wasted, stuff like that. So, like for example, this place was like a very new like retirement home. It was very new, hadn't opened yet or like anything like that. So there was a lot of stuff that was just unknown. There would be rooms that were still being built, and one room would just be filled with chairs. One room there's construction. It's a huge, huge place. So that's what had been going on like prior to it like opening officially, like opening its doors officially. But in that time, we had still like I got hired in the kitchen, my friend got hired somewhere else, and I was going to be in the kitchen doing dishes. And I've done it before. I hope not to do it again in the future for like money, but it's better than being fucking homeless. So that was what I got hired to do. And the way I got hired was like very casual. Like I still had to fill out my paperwork and all that, and you know, I hate doing job applications. Fucking hate it. Like unless they're just like one page front and back or whatever, like that's cool. I can deal with that. But it's when they want to know all the history of this and that and what doctor you went to there and what place and how many times you went to surgery and like just all that stuff. I just hate it. But this was one of those packets. I can remember it. Like it had a lot of stuff that I just kind of had to go through and, you know, references and all that stuff. I filled it all out, did everything that I was supposed to, turned it in. We started like training. There was a couple days that we had to do these PowerPoint presentations. I didn't have to do one, but I had to sit through like at least 2 days worth of just non-stop, like beginning of the day till we left, just stuff about Alzheimer's and dementia and all that, anything that's like related to that stuff. It just covered everything, which like, you know, I'm not hating on getting information, you know, I can never get too much. But at the time, I was just kind of thinking, like, this isn't probably going to be very useful for what I'm going to be doing here. But I still paid attention somewhat, as much as anyone could, you know, with hours and hours and hours of PowerPoints. So, you know, I like, you know, meet some people that have the same job as me and, you know, we're talking, getting to know each other, showing me how to like do stuff. And I'm like starting to get comfortable and like, you know, trying to get into the habit of waking up. And like I always worked in the mornings, and so just getting into that habit. And real quick, something else I was going to say is the examples of it being like so brand new. I can remember us getting a shipment one time from Cisco, who they like do all the ordering for like everywhere. If you have work in like a grocery store or restaurant or something, and they pulled out all these pallets of food and soda and drinks and like all this type of stuff, and there was literally like maybe 2/10 worth of room for that. So there was just so much stuff in this little back patio, and like it just kept coming, and just I knew I was familiar with the kitchen at that point to like know like there's no way that all this shit is gonna fit. Like and it just kept coming. Like at first it was like there's no way, and then more truckloads. So things like that had to, you know, it was a lot of trial and error. So anyways, I'm like working, and like they give us a period of like, let's say that the opening day was going to be the 21st. Okay, let's say that 21st opening day, July 21st, let's say that. So you had to schedule, the HR person was coming around and saying, okay, I have your paperwork, I have your direct deposit, I have your information. And then it was one more thing though. And it's like, oh, okay. And people were talking about it, so I didn't get blindsided by this or anything. And I figured it would happen, but she said, yeah, well, we're going to need you guys to do a physical across the street. We're already contracted with the urgent care across the street. So all you got to do is go across the street, and they're going to do a quick physical with you, and you're going to take a urinalysis for us. And then you can come right back over here and we'll sign your paperwork, and you'll get your, like, it was the last hurdle to go through to like get everything of, you know, start getting your bank set up or, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, I'm like, fuck, you know, like, and not that it wasn't like, oh no, what am I going to do? I was just kind of like, shit. I was hoping not to have to deal with this. You know, sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you slip through the cracks. It happens. So, you know, but I wouldn't want it to like get anyone in trouble or anything like that. So at the end of the day, like I wouldn't have like lied about it. I was just trying to, you know, get out of doing it as much as I could, or trying to control the situation. Like when I found out about that, I was like, well, can I do it at my doctor? Can I do it? Like I was trying to like take it into like my own home turf to try to get some like a grip on the situation, but they were like, nope. They were like, it's really easy. I think I said something like, I'm not comfortable with other doctors, blah blah blah. You know, I tried to give them something, and they were just like, look, it's really not that crazy, just go across the street. They'll ask you a couple questions and take the test and come back, and it's all good. And I'm like, all right, fine. Like, I wasn't being defiant about it or anything, because I knew in the back of my head, quick fix. Like, literally, it's just like, if you have a job and there's a drug test and you do not want to, like, if you can't get, like, especially if you smoke weed, like, that shit hangs onto your fat cells. It stays in your system for a long time, so it's really hard to, like, get that out of your system in a short amount of time. And someone like me, like, it's going to take me months to give a clean sample, just from the add-on of just every day for, however long, however many years or whatever. So I'm not worried about it. Not super worried about it. Was hoping that I could circumvent it, or maybe they'd forget or whatever, like, oh, he's just in the kitchen, whatever. But nope, sure as shit, they remembered. So I had my date set up for, like, July 26th. Like, literally, like, I always plan stuff out, like, very last minute. Like, I'm not proud of it or whatever. I'm really not proud of it, but it's just the fact of the matter. So I have my day, like, it's getting closer, and it's getting closer, it's getting closer. And mind you, I already had the quick fix. Like, I already had my bottle, and I had the little temperature gauge on it, my hand warmers. Like, I had the kit was all ready to go, so I wasn't worried about that. But still, I obsess about everything. I'm always, even if everything's taken care of, I'm like that person of, like, well, what if this happens? What about this? What about that? You don't want to be in between these two spots in my head. Like, not even my worst enemy. I'm telling you, man, it's really fucked up in there. So I'm like, the day finally comes, and the day comes, and I'm a little nervous. Like, I'm definitely thinking about it, but for the most part, I know that I have it, like, taken care of. And especially with Quick Fix, because I was someone that I had access to buying, like, stuff from liquor stores and smoke shops and stuff, like, when I was like 16. Didn't have a fake ID, but just I was able to, that confidence, I had it back then. I don't know what happened to it now, man, seriously, but I used to have it back then, of just walking into a place and being like, let me get a pack of Marlboro Reds, like, it's like, I'm just imagining myself doing that. And it's like, it's a whole different world today because of the whole 21 and up thing. There ain't no fucking way that I would have been able to pass for 21. I'm surprised that I was even able to do it for 18 for as long as I was able to, and how young I was able to, like, get that ball moving. I said I got my license suspended when I was like 15, and it worked. Eventually, got shot down a bunch of times, man. Like, but just always kept trying. There's got to be a lesson in rejection or some shit there. Like, I don't know, but when you have the balls to go up to someone who doesn't even smoke and ask them, excuse me, do you have an extra cigarette? Like, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of ballsy. Like, it's just kind of like, jam. Or, man, I would ask people, like, hey, do you have a cigarette? If they pulled out a pack of, like, Newports or menthols, I would go, oh, my bad. Sorry, I don't smoke those. Like, that's such a dick move. Like, I can't believe I would do that shit. Like, I would never do that now, and I definitely learned my lesson, like, not in any harsh way or anything, but just kind of realizing it over time. But, like, I just realized, like, damn, I would feel like I would be pissed if someone did that to me. So hindsight is 2020, whatever. So I had experience with people being like, yo, can you buy me this detox drink? Yo, can you buy me this detox powder? Can you buy me this? Like, all these things that in the shop they would say 18 plus, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it was behind a counter or whatever. And I'm telling you, I bought drinks, powders, shit you eat, like, I don't even know, like, so many different products that I can even remember a couple of names. Golden Seal, I remember that being one that people were like, dude, that's the one. And that was when I was in, like, 10th grade, and they still, like, hella people, I don't remember one person passing with anything besides Quick Fix. So that's why I trust it. That's why it's, like, back pocket, like, for sure. It's not something that you really have to like roll the dice on, so to speak. Well, unless you are worried about something that's 99% accurate. But why would you have to worry about that 1%, right? Right? Well, not to foreshadow too much, but my day comes. They call me in there. I go into the little office, and I can remember the doctor. He asked me a couple questions. Are you sexually active? Um, do you do drugs? Do you do alcohol? No, 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 sir. Camp Scout, Boy Scout. Like, nope, no, sir. So the guy's like, all right, cool. And then he goes and he grabs me a cup. He comes back and he says, all right, I need you to fill this out in the bathroom, come back and hand it to me. Or like you put it in like a window sill, and then he'll grab it. It's like weird rules like that. So I take my test and I take my bottle out and I like cup it in my hands and try to get it warm, and kind of like hold it up against kind of like my stomach or just like my thigh, trying to get it to be like, I didn't have the hand warmers. I didn't want it to be too hot. It can get too hot. So I'm looking at the temperature gauge and I can see that it's like starting to get blue over the spot where I need it to go, right over the 98. So then I pour it into the cup and I close the cup, put the bottle in my pocket, and I put it on the sill thing or whatever, and then I'm like washing my hands, and then I like grab it with the paper towel, and I go and I hand it to him. I'm like, here you go. And he's like, okay, cool. Like he wasn't like suspicious or anything. And he's like, all right, just take a seat right in there and I'll be in shortly with your results. I'm like, all right, cool. So he comes back into the room after like more than 5 minutes, less than 10. Okay. He comes in and immediately I know something's off. Immediately I can tell by the way he's looking, the expression he had just in his eyes. I'm pretty good at like reading people and their body language and all that shit, but like I could see him looking down and then looking at me and then looking at the paper, and I have a lot of experience with that, with other facets of my life that I can get into at a later point that doesn't have shit to do with this. But I just know when I'm being looked at. Everybody knows that feeling of when someone's looking at you, or I don't know, maybe not everyone gets it, but I did. So automatically my wheels start turning of like, all right, fucking something happened. I'm gonna have to like, I'm already getting in that like damage report, like damage control mode. So he comes up to me and he has this paper and he goes, so you said when I asked you that you don't take any recreational drugs, right? And I'm like, yes, sir. And he said, well, I'm confused then, because right here it says that you screened positive for OXYCODONE. And I'm sitting there just like like immediately, I mean, not like that. Immediately I'm like, what? Like, I'm like trying not to give it away, but I'm just like, nah, like that can't be right. Like there's no way. I'm just denying. I'm just like, there's no way that's possible. Like I don't understand. Like, cause in my mind, Quickfix test, I had used it before. Like it wasn't like computing to me. Like I just didn't understand what was going on. And it wasn't even like a something where the test was unreadable or something. It literally came up as another fucking drug that like, that's like the opposite of what you want to happen. You want it to come back and for it to be clean. So he's like asking me like, is there any reason you can think of why that would show up in your system? And I'm thinking, and I'm just like trying to think. And I said, oh, well, I don't know actually. And the doctor's like, what? That might be it. I'm like, well, I said about a week ago I went and I got a root canal done. And the place where I got it done, it wasn't a regular, it was like a place that specifically does root canals. And they gave me a prescription for the pain. And it was something like, it was like like, I'm trying to slander Percocet because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it's some Perc 5s, blah, blah, blah. I want it to sound alien. So I'm like, I'm trying to butcher the name. And then, you know, OXYCODONE, whatever. And he's like, yeah, that's it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, like, that's what it said on the bottle. So that's the reason why it's showing that. That has to be the reason why. That has to be. I don't know why else, you know? I don't know. So I was just like, that has to be why. And so he says, okay, well, I'm gonna sign this for you and everything, and I want you to go over to your human resources person and explain to them what happened. And he said, but I'm gonna sign everything like it's, you know, I'm just assuming if that's all it is, then you're good. So I'm just gonna fill it out like that. I'm like, all right, cool. So I I'm like, you know, walking, I'm kind of like thinking like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, what is going on? So I get to the human resources lady, and I explained to her the thing of, hey, you know, I went, took my test, everything was all good, but I didn't realize that this medicine they gave me at the dentist was going to show up as something in my system for the drug test. Like, I'm really sorry, I didn't know. And she's like, oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. And she says, well, all I need you to do is just for you to get proof that that's what happened, and you'll be good to go. And, you know, I didn't want to like talk about it too much, so I was just like, okay, cool. And I just walked out. Like, I didn't want to specify, so do you want this? Do you want a phone call? Do you want whatever? You know, I was just like, all right. So I realized as I'm walking away, I'm like, all right, like, I got to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do now. Like, now I really got to figure out what I'm going to do. So, fortunately for me, and I don't suggest this or anything, but fortunately at the time, I had a friend who worked as a receptionist in like a medical building. Okay. So I had explained to her what had happened and everything, and she like did a lot of like clerical work and stuff like on the computer, right? So she asked me like, do you know the place that you're talking about, like the doctor's office that you're talking about? Like, do you know what it's called? Do they have like a you know, a logo or something? I'm like, yeah. And I tell her the name and online and whatever. And she basically was good enough with computers and with notes and with that kind of stuff that she took the letterhead and she took it onto like a new document, and she like wrote down like blah 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 dentistry, like blah blah blah, and like faked all the information. And only thing that changed were the phone numbers, that the phone number was supposed to go to someone specific that I knew that was gonna, you know, clarify it. So I'm like, shit, like at this point I got nothing to lose. Like, this is my best option, you know. Let's just run it. So I remember getting the paper, and I remember having her, asked her, can you fold it into like thirds? Like, you know, when something is folded like over and then like over like that, but like perfectly. And she had like good hands and was able to make it look really legit. And I put it into an envelope, and it just said like, hi, my name is Dr. blah blah blah. I saw Patrick on blah blah blah. I gave him a prescription for 7.5/325 oxycodone / acetaminophen, aka Percocet, on this date. He was supposed to take 3 a day until the medicine wore off. If you have any questions, please give me a call at blah 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 blah. Thank you very much for your time. Signed, stamped, put in an envelope, and I'm like, all right. So I'm loaded up with my envelope, and I have to go, like, I have to get this done in one day because the business is going to start the next day. So I show up the very next day, and I have my piece of paper, and I did it at the very end of the day. And I just went up to the woman, and we had never discussed a note, a phone call, whatever, but I just took the liberty of trying to get away with it. So I hand it to her, and I can see her, and she's reading it. And I remember, I like, you don't want to always be like this, but I was like, so like, do you want me to like give them a call? Do you want to talk to them? Like I was trying to like, I thank God she did not call my bluff, but it was for sure a bluff. Like I just wanted to sound legit, like, oh well, I can tell them to give you a call if you have any more questions. And she just went, no, 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 it's fine, it's fine. Put my paper down on a stack and then just continued typing. Told me that I had, that I got all my paperwork, I got my uniform, I got like all the stuff that I needed. And I say all of that because it ended up working out. I got the job, and then fucking literally a week before, you know how you have to work 90 days to start getting your benefits and like for your probationary period or whatever. A week before my 90 days ends, where I will have been there for 3 months, I get fucking fired. I get called up in the morning, first thing when I walk through the door, get brought into a little room, and I get handed like a $700 check, and they're just like, here. And I'm just like, damn, dude. And, obviously I took that money and probably went down a fucking horrible run. But I did all of that shit for nothing, basically. All of it to stay sharp, I don't know, but just like the Quickfix failing on me, just like everything, it was a very like roller coaster situation of just not knowing what was going to happen. And fortunately I was able to get away with it, but unfortunately I wasn't able to really put the opportunity to a good use and to be able to get those benefits and everything like that, because I got fired for falling asleep during a safety like first aid class, which I was already first aid certified at that time. Was already certified. I'd already taken my classes, had the paper in my wallet, but because I was bored in there and I fell asleep, they decided to fire me like on the spot. No 2 weeks, no anything. It was just like the very next day, boom, here's your last check, peace. It was literally like 5 minutes. So yeah, I definitely went on like a not so good run after that. Thank God I got into a rehab after that at some point. But anyways, that's the story. That's what happened. And I'm definitely not no con man, not claiming to be one, but that's just a situation that I had to con my way into it, through it, and it spit me out the other side. So it is what it is. So hopefully you liked my story, and hopefully you liked my channel, and I hope you have a nice day. So peace out.